All right, I'm John Gaydos from Soul Performance, and our next little educational series video is going to be on the 981 platform of Boxster Cayman. Evan in Marketing Hill superimposed some of the stock exhaust components up so you guys can see it, compare, contrast a little bit about what I'm talking about. The stock exhaust on these cars is broken up into header assemblies and muffler assemblies, and whether it's a base, an S, a GTS, a Spider, a GT4, all these cars have the same fitment and the same exhaust systems from factory. Every header assembly from base all the way to GT4 is the same, and the only difference between the mufflers is whether or not you have the valved factory Porsche Sport exhaust or the non-valved, non-PSC exhaust system for valve control on these cars. So the Spider, the GTS, and the GT4, they all had PSC as standard with the exhaust valve button on the center console. And there's really three main variables that you go after in regards to an exhaust change on these cars: sound level, character and tone change, and performance. So of those three variables, everyone has their own subjective goals on what can do what for what they're trying to accomplish with the car. So starting off with something as a base vehicle with no Porsche Sport exhaust. Now, breaking it into the headers versus the rear muffler, if you don't have the valved catback muffler on these cars from factory, then a header change isn't going to amplify the valve's open sound level because there are no valves. So if you change the header, the stock muffler downstream is going to be restrictive enough so that the header isn't going to make as big a change as it would on a PSE car from a sound level perspective. Headers are an amplifier of whatever you have downstream because you're either putting a let's say a much less dense catalytic converter core in the headers as part of a street header, such as this one here. You can see this has got a cat in it. And you could also go as far as going with a competition header for competition use and track days, such as this, where you're going to get more sound level and more performance, less heat and less weight than a equivalent catted component. So anytime you do a competition style header, it's usually best to tune the vehicle to maximize the performance gains and also take care of any check engine lights with you running on track. These catted street headers, you wouldn't need a check engine light for because they have the high flow cats in it. And that would also mean you don't need a tune to turn that off. Now, on a base car, doing these with the stock muffler, as I said, is a modest sound level increase because of how restrictive the catback muffler is on it. And the performance gains on the 981s are primarily held in the header assemblies because of how large and restrictive the factory cat is located in each header. Other than software, headers are the leading performance gains that you can get out of a 981 chassis car. So from there, you have to make the decision, do you want to chase a modest sound level increase with the same character and tone as what you already have, as well as performance, or do you want to change the rear muffler system on the car to have more overall sound level and at the same time have a more significant character and tone change on the car? The muffler options that I have laid out here is a non-valved muffler replacement, and on this side, a valved muffler replacement. So our exhaust systems, we call this a performance exhaust system, we call this our valved exhaust system. The difference between them is simply whether or not it has valves. The performance exhaust system is essentially the same as our valved exhaust running valves open all the time. It has larger diameter tubing, it has a smaller muffler, a much less restrictive flow path than the factory muffler there, yet it still has a secondary flow through here that is using the entire muffler body as essentially a Helmholtz chamber in order to reduce cabin drone inside the car under 3,000 RPM at cruising speeds. So the valved exhaust system allows you to close the primary flow path and put all of it through the smaller flow path and every bit of exhaust flow through all the chambering and packing material that we have in here, rather than simply residual flow going through there. This will more tangibly reduce the overall volume when you close the valves on the car. Now, if you don't have a Porsche Sport exhaust equipped vehicle, you do not have the button inside the car. All of our valve exhaust systems do come with valve controllers where you can control the valves either with the key fob on and off, or you can sync the key fob buttons with the HomeLink system inside the car, so you can use the garage door buttons, one button for closed, one button for open. We also work with Suncoast and the guys down there. If you wanted to do PSE retrofit kits, they do have all the part numbers and SKUs to replace the center console board with the PSE button and help you program that in order to run our valve exhaust system with factory button control. Now, some feature that is the same between these exhaust systems is our X-pipe assembly in the middle. This blending of exhaust flow on top of the larger tubing diameter and the less restrictive muffler flow path, this helps give a smoother and richer tone quality to the exhaust on the car. We'll have links to some videos that you can listen to in regards to both of these on the car. As this muffler is smaller than the factory muffler, the let's say comparative to the Porsche Sport exhaust specifically, this has a smaller delta of change between closed and open than a PSE exhaust system would. Our complaints from our customers is that the PSE, when the valves are closed, is so quiet, it's so dead of an experience that they wanted something a little louder when the valves are closed, yet still have a tangible reduction in overall sound level between closed and open. So as you can see, smaller muffler, smaller secondary flow path. So let's say you've got a Porsche Sport exhaust equipped car and you like kind of the sound that you have, but you want more of it. You want more sound level. That factory Porsche Sport exhaust is reasonably unrestrictive when the valves are in the open condition. However, the headers are so restrictive upstream from that, what most people do on a PSE car to start as the foundation to work off of is to replace the header assemblies in order to increase the volume and aggressiveness of the factory PSE muffler when the valves are in the open condition. You increase that delta of change between closed and open, so open is much more aggressive. That also hits the performance at the same time. So you kind of get a double whammy on the PSE cars. You do a header change, you will feel the difference, and you will most certainly hear the overall sound level change. Now you can also at the same time drop that PSE muffler down, and you can blend the exhaust flow between those two factory mufflers with our bolt-on X-pipe with tip assembly, and that'll help smoothen out some of the character as well. So if you want to make the best of the Porsche Sport exhaust that you have, you can change the headers, you can change the X-pipe with that existing muffler, or if you don't like how quiet it is when the valves are closed, or you want a much richer, more refined tone quality, you can also go after our muffler changes for those cars as well, because it's all the same fitment. So just for the track guys, because we haven't really seen this much on the street, but the guys that are tracking their 981s, we have seen an increasing amount of fatigue failures on the stock headers, primarily on the O2 bungs. The entire O2 bung, let's just use this as a reference here and here. These are the O2 bungs that your oxygen sensors screw into. Those bungs on the factory exhaust are actually, on the factory headers, sorry, are actually blowing out of the headers, and that exhaust gas goes right onto the wiring harness, and I believe it's on the driver's side, also a fuel line. Not a very good thing, a very expensive repair, not a very safe thing to happen if you don't catch it in time while you're on the track. Let's say you're wearing a helmet, you've got earplugs underneath, and you just don't hear the change in the sound level or that sound of a blowout from these headers from stock unfortunately, that can cause a lot of damage to your car. So we're starting to have the header replacements more of a preventative maintenance item for a lot of these track guys. We worked with the Porsche Club of America PCA Racing Committee to work towards allowing replacement of stock headers on all the 981 class cars in order to prevent this from happening to them. So now all the headers are open for 981s with PCA Club Racing. You can replace the stock headers with an aftermarket one so those cars don't have that problem under racing conditions. But if you're doing DE, high performance driver's education, if you're doing track days, you should still consider the headers to be your primary objective to change out before you have some kind of a problem like that. So we've covered a lot here. You know, I'd hope your takeaways are best return on investment for sound level and tone quality is a muffler on a non-PSE car, moderate increase in sound level out of headers on a non-PSE car. On a PSE car, headers make a big sound level change when the valves are open. X-pipe smoothens out tone quality with the stock mufflers. And if you want to chase a much more refined character and tone overall, you can also replace the muffler like you would on a non-PSE car too. So I would say that's pretty much it in a jiffy. Although I will say we do have a race-specific exhaust system. If you're a street guy, proceed with caution. I cannot stress that enough. You need to have a muffler on a car in order to have a reasonable cabin presence under 3K. We do have a race exhaust. It is non-valved. It is essentially a straight pipe with two very small resonators. The drone is intense because that system was built for high RPM abuse, over 3,000 RPM. Shave as much weight as possible, make as much power as you can. And that is for race use. If you drive it on the street, kudos, but you know, proceed with caution as you should with any exhaust system that doesn't have a very sophisticated muffler like what we have here. Please feel free, call us. We like to talk cars. Give us a shout or shoot us an email. We will very happily answer any questions you have, guide you down the right process of choosing the right part to meet your goals. If it's something that I didn't cover, we will most certainly have that conversation with you. Make sure you make an educated decision and buy the right parts or part the first time. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the chat, and see you around.